take your martial arts school to the next level. Welcome to another edition of SchoolOwnerTalk.com. Now here's your host, Dwayne and Allie.
Well, hello, Dwayne Brummett here with Allie Alberigo, SchoolOwnerTalk.com. Allie, great to be with you, sir.
And our guests, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, so let's talk about what we're going to do today, because we're actually doing a podcast on a Monday rather than a Wednesday, which you're going to make my week go by even quicker now. But
yeah, it was kind of weird for me too. I'm like, I know I have something to do. I got to do it. I'm like, what is it? I have it in my calendar, but I'm like, okay, let me go look. I woke up early this morning, not sure that the time to do it, and said, oh, it's at 1. Okay, I don't have to stress out at all. So how are you guys doing? What's going on? I mean, these are our we call them our expert advisors. They're sponsors of our show, and they are from GetKarateStudents.com and a host of other things that they do. And it's just awesome to have you guys here with us today. So what's new? What's going on with you guys?
It's good to be here. Good to be here. We're glad to get on and start talking about the industry and stuff that we're seeing, and I'm sure that you guys are seeing as well.
Yeah. How about you, Dwayne? Anything going on with you as far as stuff like that? I know I've been so crazy busy with leads and trial classes, and it's been exciting. I'm like, wow, if this continues, this will be an incredible year.
Well, now's the time to advertise, and that's kind of what we want to pick your brain with regards to, the state of our industry and your advice, because of the amount of schools that you are, able to help with their advertising. You guys have some leverage with regards to seeing numbers maybe and being in contact with those individuals. And, so we're curious if you can let our listeners in on what the heck is happening in our industry, especially hopefully towards the end of COVID here. And by the way, I want to make sure everybody knows, because those of you that aren't watching, you're only listening to this. We have John and Travis from GetKarateStudents.com with us today for our expert panel. And again, thanks for being with us, gentlemen. Real quickly, John, I don't know if you want to go first, or Travis, but just make sure you say your name for the listeners, not the watchers, but give us a little quick background of each of you.
Sure, I'll go. This is John Evans. My background's actually in marketing and sales, not martial arts. I know there's a lot of guys that have done have started a martial arts school, figured out marketing kind of on their path, and then have started to transfer that knowledge to other school owners. Mine was sort of the opposite. I started in marketing and in sales, and had a digital marketing agency, stumbled into the martial arts industry only because my son was training in a Taekwondo school. And it never even dawned on me that they would be a good client until one day I saw a picture of my son, who had grown like 3 feet in the amount of time he was in the school. I was like, wow, he's grown so much. And I look at his school, and they had the same number of students they had like 5 years prior. And I was like, maybe they would be a good client for digital marketing. And it just took off from there. They referred us a bunch of clients. Eventually, we just completely rebranded as a martial arts marketing specialty, because it just works so well, for one. And we just love working with martial arts school owners. And, compared to any other business industry that I've been in, I've just found that martial arts school owners are my favorite to work with, because they're passionate about what they do, which you don't find in a lot of industries. You don't find restaurant owners per se. I mean, sure, there are some, but a lot of restaurant owners that I've worked with, they're not passionate about feeding people. They just, have a restaurant and they feed people, Right. Whereas a martial arts school owner, like, there are guys that will do anything to keep that business and to make that business successful. And that's the kind of people I love working with. So that's sort of how we got into the industry. That's the briefest background I can give you.
Travis, how about you?
I like it. It's a good choice.
Yeah, for me, I was a teacher, high school history teacher, U.S. history for, 13, 14 years. Kind of all bleeds together. Kind of like Allie said, kind of just, you forget after a while.
Yeah.
And I coached football and lacrosse in all those years. I think last time we were on, Dwayne, you called me an athletic supporter.
Yes.
If I remember correctly. So that's
personal jockstrap. Yeah.
Yes. So that title has stuck. My wife has adopted it. I've been working with John for a couple of years now. Been able to translate. I can really relate to what school owners go through because they are teachers. It's just they're teaching something different. They are coaches. They're coaching something different. So I definitely can empathize where they're at, and then just being able to coach and work with them really has been an awesome opportunity.
That's great.
Yeah. So you guys met how, real quickly?
So we met at church. I was attending a church called Stone Point here in Cumming, Georgia. And we'd been coming for, I don't know, a couple of months, maybe at the most. We weren't there long. It's a very small church. And Travis and his wife came in. And at first I thought Travis probably didn't like me. He was kind of like, he's so cool. He's such a cool guy, And he's like, he's sitting in this room. And I'm like, hey, I don't think I've met you yet. And I just got this vibe like he doesn't want to be here. He doesn't want to talk to me. But it turned out that really wasn't the case. If maybe you could give some perspective on that, Travis. But
yeah, I'm very gregarious when I know people, but if I don't know people, I'm very kind of standoff. Like it's something I got to be better about.
I'm right there with you. So
it's good that John introduced himself. Yeah, we met at church. It was awesome. I wish John would tell my wife more often how cool I am and how awesome I am. That's a deal John and I have. Anytime we have a compliment for each other, we don't tell each other. We text each other's wives. Just to really kind of build it up.
That's good. It ties in and helps you guys out that way.
Yeah, it means more.
So that's interesting. It's kind of funny that you mentioned that. Like, you see someone just basically on a imagination. You're imagining the way they feel and what they're thinking based on your own belief system, right? And I find that's interesting. Like perception is an interesting thing in the martial art industry, right? And my ex-wife, who she and I are best of friends, she always said perception is reality, but it's your reality and your perception, right? So I wonder, like, what would you say as a segue in the industry that school owners feel is real, when in reality you guys are probably saying no, it's not it's not at all like that. Like, for example, I can't make that much money or charge that much in my town, or I can't do this in my area or in my style. What do you run across when you're training people and talking to them about stuff like that?
Yeah, I'd say you're so good at this, Allie. I got to give you that compliment. If you want, I'll text your wife and tell her how good you are.
Good. She's in the living room right now.
But really,
I'm giving my number out to my wife because I wouldn't. I don't know that I want one of my friends texting my wife.
Dwayne's handing out some Google Voice number to everybody. Oh, you want to get a hold of my wife? Here's
right.
I know I have a Google Voice number.
But that was a great segue, Allie. I was really impressed by that. So anyhow, I do think that you're right about that. Perception is definitely reality. And I think there are, so we do a Q&A call every Monday and Thursday with our members so they can get on and ask questions and tell us, kind of where they're having trouble, and we work them through that kind of stuff. And so I do hear oftentimes people come on and they say, well, people in my area are just scared to come in right now, or, they have this perception of how everyone in their area is. And the reality is when we usually dig into that and I say, well, how many people have told you that? Well, one.
Right.
Or two, and
even 3, 4, or 5 doesn't matter.
3, 4, or 5. Right. Yeah. We have, and even before COVID happened, people would get on the call and they would have this tendency to say things like, well, everyone is doing this, or no one is showing up for appointments, or all these leads aren't booking, or that kind of stuff. And when we really dig into the numbers, you find that the data pool is just way too small. So we have actually set up a lot of rules for troubleshooting stuff where we tell them, look, if you've got, and really just in that is trying to reshape their perception to help them understand what reality really is. And so that's a really good phrase that you said there, where perception is reality. I never really put that together, but something that we do in part of our coaching is we give them the rules to say, if you're going to say this is a reality, this is how many people you have to have talked to before you can say it works or it doesn't work.
Right.
So one of those examples would be like, if you've had 3 leads and none of them have booked an appointment, you're not allowed to say no one's booking an appointment. You have to have had 20 leads and have less than 10 who booked an appointment before you can say this isn't working. Because that's usually when we found is about the maximum where the numbers start to pan out, or the minimum where the numbers are.
Okay, so that's a good standard though to look at. So that is a standard that you guys go by when within your coaching. So at least a minimum of 10 before you could start putting together any kind of, a trend or any kind of real reality based upon a belief system.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're just basically trying to restructure the belief system to say, this is the reality in big numbers. Like, we know the numbers in reality in big numbers. We've enrolled 10,000 students, probably. That's what we've been saying for months. So it's probably way more than 10,000 students, but we can reverse engineer that and say, if you have 100 leads, you're going to have 50 appointments. You're going to probably have 40, or from 50 appointments, probably 25 will show up. Probably 12 of those, or of 25. Oh my gosh, my numbers are off. 50% of appointments book, right? So if you get 50% of leads turn into appointments, about 50% of those show up on average. When they show up, about 99%, I usually say 90%, but the reality is really 99% will pay for a paid trial that day. And then about 50% of those will enroll as students. So those are my numbers. I got to them eventually. So we know that on a big scale. But if people are looking at those numbers and they say, well, half of my leads should book an appointment, but they've got 5 leads and no one's booked an appointment yet, sometimes they freak out and they go, hey, nobody's booking. And so we know that it's going to start to take effect at about 20. Once you've seen about 20 leads, you should have about appointments. So that's really a good perception of reality. I might borrow that from you. I might model something after.
Yeah, well, remember the last part. That's very important, though. Perception is reality, but your perception is your reality. Because, just because the crazy homeless guy who's a little mentally ill thinks that you're an alien doesn't necessarily mean you're an alien, but to him, you are. And I find that interesting in our industry. Like, people's belief systems have been passed down. It's generational. Right. So a sensei who wasn't a school owner really per se, running a business, passed all his beliefs down to his student, and his student opened up a school, and now they think and believe that way. I mean, this is a funny thing, but I would actually teach with a Spanish accent when I was teaching my own classes in my school, because I came from a school that had a Spanish population and my teacher was Spanish. So I'd be like, I don't know, man, what are you doing? Tucking your shin. You got to, like with that. And I didn't realize. I look back on videos and I want to shoot myself, because it wasn't me, but it was just what I did. It was the craziest thing ever. So that became my paradigm, or what I would consider my paradigm back in the day, because I didn't know how to say the word.
Well, I think, Ali, you hit it on the head too. This idea, like you said, your perception is your reality. Stories are powerful, and all day long we tell ourselves stories, right? We're constantly narrating in our head what's going on around us. And kind of like John said, a lot of our school owners, they kind of come in with that, but so much of our coaching is around mindset, because if you can't break through the mindset, I think a lot of what I hear is actually outside of our community. And it kind of reminds me that I've heard that term, perception is reality, a long time ago. Well, I used to work at a bank. I was a bank teller. And I remember I was on the phone. We had an IT problem, like the system was down or something. So I was on the phone with someone in the IT department who happened to be my friend. So it was on the outside, it was me on the phone having a very friendly conversation on the phone. But I was actually problem solving a big issue. And there's a line, it's Friday afternoon, everyone's cashing their paychecks. There's a line out the door. And I remember this person just loses it. They totally flip out on me, because in their mind, I was just standing around on the phone with a buddy,
right,
while there's this long line not working.
Right.
Where in reality, I was helping them in a roundabout way, right, getting the IT problem solved. So that's when someone told me that term perception is reality, and it really is just kind of working with John has helped me having this idea of always giving the benefit of the doubt, but then also checking your feelings or your perception with really unbiased data, right? So for me, I talk to a bunch of school owners, and I might get into the situation where 10 people don't answer, or 10 people don't have, any, I don't know, just 10 people have the same thing in common. I'll get on John, I'm like, oh man, this is awful. He's like, hey, let's look at the numbers. Where are the numbers going? And the numbers never lie. It reminds me of when I coached when we coached football, we always filmed everything. And if a kid said this, and this, we're like, all right, we'll check the film. And the film always told the story because there's no interpretation of that. Right. So same kind of thing, just kind of going back to what I was saying is I think we all need to caution ourselves, me included, with what stories we tell ourselves throughout the day. Because when we start narrating these stories where we don't have any data to really actually back up what we're telling ourselves, it totally can misconstrue, how we're seeing things and how we're perceiving things.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Don't you run into, I know this was me. I decided to make this a career and did not have a business background at all. I'm not saying I'm a phenomenal martial artist, but I think I was a decent motivator and great teacher. But when it came to the business, I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. And then to hear other people charging exuberant amount of money compared to what I was charging and having, even 200 students at the time. So it seemed to me like, gosh, if I was at 100, I would have been happy. How do you help change that perception with someone? Because it took me years to get that perception changed. It wasn't just an overnight thing. And I think that's probably one of the biggest keys, right? Is to get them to see themselves in a different light based upon the numbers. How do you get them to believe the numbers?
Yeah, so I think that's a really great question, and I think that's something that we've really tried to focus on. And part of the training that we do, the first week of it is setting the foundations, and a lot of what that is setting up that belief, but then giving them expectations. So we'll tell a lot of stories. Again, it's about the stories. We'll tell a lot of stories about clients that we've had in the past that have done things, and we try to relate to as many different scenarios as possible for a school owner so that they can say, oh, this person is like me. They were able to do that. Why can't I do that? And that's sort of the reinforcement. We say, this is what you should expect. Now here's this person who did it. And then they can actually go into our Facebook group and see that person is doing it. I think that's a huge part, is that community aspect of it. When I first got into business coaching and business consulting, Facebook groups, either they didn't exist or I had no idea what they were or how to use them. And it was really difficult to get people to understand, hey, all of these other people are doing it. You're having this problem that's all in your head. This is, if you would just turn your belief and believe that you could do this thing, you'd stop sabotaging yourself. Look at this group of people. And half the time you'd have to have another client call. You're doing these cross conversations. Then you got to offer them some type of incentive for their time. And it was difficult. But with the thing like Facebook groups, the community online, I honestly don't know how we have been so blessed with such a active community. But inside of our members group, people are constantly sharing successes. People are constantly getting in there and helping each other. And I don't even know how that started, or if it's just a natural byproduct of some of the training and the mindset we've done with them, or if it's just an industry thing. But whatever it is, that community aspect of it is so invaluable that I think plays a huge role in setting expectations. If you just join a program and you've paid your money and now you're wondering, is this going to work? You get invited to this Facebook group, and the first 3 posts you see are somebody that's hit 200 students, somebody else that's run out of room for parents in their classes, someone else who's just turned on their ads that's, celebrating how many leads they've got coming in. That kind of thing just automatically goes. It should make you think, well, hey, man, these people are all doing it. And the only thing they have in common is that they're running this program. I better get in here and start doing this work, And we don't just preach to them either. We don't just send them on a video. We actually give them worksheets where they can dig in and put their own details in. Because another thing that I found in the martial arts is not everybody wants to be $1 million school. Not everybody wants to have 300 students. A lot of people would be happy, like you said, Dwayne, to have 100 students and be able to provide a really good class for those 100 students. Some of them want even less than that. We took on one client that wanted, what was Andrew's goal, Travis?
Yeah, I think it might be a mutual friend. I think he's also friends with Dwayne, Andrew, and kind of to what John was saying. I think to the blessing that we have with the people that are in our group and part of our program, I think it's really a reflection of who you are. I mean, I think if you own a school, people typically attract who they are, right? If you're someone that's self-serving, that's servant leading, you always want to help, you're humble, then you naturally attract those same type of elements, right? So I think we've been able to attract that in our group for a lot of different reasons. The biggest hurdle to get through that is the self-limiting beliefs that they have. And that goes to who, kind of what you're talking about, John. We had a mutual friend, Dwayne Andrew, who, I'd been talking to Andrew for probably a year and a half because I knew it was just such a good fit for him and what he was doing. Because it's not a good fit for everybody, but I knew it was a good fit for him. So I'd follow up, check in on him. And then finally one day he was like, hey, man, I'm struggling. If I don't get 6 students in the next, 3 or 4 months, I got to close the door. And I still think this is hilarious. I told him 6 students, we'll get that in a couple of weeks. Like we don't need to stress about that at all. And afterwards, he told me he rolled his eyes at me. We were on the phone. He was rolling his eyes as I was saying that. But he was humble enough to say, hey, look, I got to do something different. I got to break through this self-limiting belief. I got to listen to someone like John and Travis and these other school owners who have been there and just trust this kind of process and humble myself that I don't know everything. And he did. And I think he got 6 students in like a week. And then he doubled his school in like 6 weeks. And one of the best, I love telling his story because a month later, here was a guy, a month before, he wanted 6 students to keep the doors open. That would get him through the moon. Life is amazing. 2 months later, he's saying, wow, my new goal is 200 students. He totally broke through who he could be and who he was and what he provided. And that's really a testament to the humility that people come into our program, but then also the mindset growth that happens. Another example would be Kevin, a guy from North Carolina. We were just talking about North Carolina with the tuition, because I think, Dwayne, you started off with the tuition question. I think his prices were around like $129, $130. Now, I can't tell you how many school owners I talk to when their prices are low. They just can't see that someone would pay $200, $250, $300 a month for their program, not even including belt testing and things like that. And I remember Kevin, I think he was at like $129. He was like, oh, do you think I can raise it, John? I don't know. And John was just like, look, just raise it $10 for the next conversation you have. The next person that you try to enroll, just make it $139. And if that person signs up, keep it at $139 for 5 people. And if all those people sign up, move it to $149. And then now I think he's charging $199 a month for his tuition. But it's just being able to be in a group of people that are humble and have this idea that they don't know everything, but then also putting them in position to see that and taste that little bit of success to break through what's holding them back from what really their potential is.
Yeah, that's actually, that was the other thing that I wanted to mention that I totally forgot while I was talking is results. Because if they can get quick results, it's easy to believe,
It's no different than teaching a kid in martial arts class.
Right.
A kid that's hesitant, has low confidence. I mean, it's the exact same thing, has low confidence. Hey, if we can get that kid in position to have a little bit of success early on, I mean, you guys know, or health coaching or whatever, that they're going to follow you to, through a wall.
Yeah. Yeah, they're definitely hooked, and they have the belief system is shifted now, and they can believe rather than this much more, now they can believe this much more.
Yep.
Right.
So interesting, though, that, the $10 increase thing that you talked about, I used that on a client of mine, and I said, listen, just raise it by $10. And he did, and he got like 5 signups, and he actually texted me, he says, I kind of feel dirty. Like it was so easy. Like I feel like I just did something wrong. And I'm like, that's the problem. Stop feeling guilty about charging what you're worth. And now his tuition is way, way higher than that, so it is something that we always, and I think it goes back to the start of how we learned martial arts. I mean, you guys trained at all or not really in the martial arts? Did you both or?
Not back in the day.
Yeah. So Dwayne and I are still there too. And it's like, there's always been this kind of like 2 steps forward, kind of 1 to 2, 3 steps back when it comes to training, like that that mentality, like we have to feel pain in order for it, no pain, no gain for us to grow. And that mentality is the same with our businesses. So we're sometimes, if it's easy, it's a scam. If it's making us way more money, that must be that we're selling out,
Right.
Things like that. And I think that stigma is something that we do. And then again, you mentioned before, self-sabotage. Like, holy crap. So many of my friends, I've coached them and they get to a point and then all of a sudden they start doing literally like stupid things that is quite obvious, and they start boom, 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 killing themselves. And then they're back to where they were. And they verify, see, it was short term, it didn't work, that kind of thing. And it's such a shame because, we're kind of inbred in us as martial artists to feel that pain, to make mistakes and so on. And, it's something that they need to overcome. So those are some great points that you guys said.
Right.
I was out. This was one of my really good friends, he went off to college and I didn't. I, became a meat cutter and then an assistant meat manager. And then they wanted to open up a store, another store, and wanted me to move, but I wanted to do martial arts. And so my friend graduated college and he's out of college, got a job, and we're out. And we see this group of girls from high school. One of the girls he really liked in high school. So I happened to get up and go to the restroom. She walks up to him and says, "Hey," starts talking to him. And he's like, "All right," and anyways, I come back. I knew they were walking up, and I come back and I go, "Where did they go?" And he goes, "Oh, well, let me share with you what they said, or what the girl said." And I said, "Yeah, go ahead." And he said, "Well, as soon as you left, she asked me, 'You still hang out with that nerd?'" Like, she was talking about me. Well, first of all, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, so I'm definitely not a nerd. But this was the thing, when you talk about beliefs. My friend said to her, he goes, "Nerd, my friend owns his own business. He makes more money than I do, and I have a college education." He said, "I'm not talking to you anymore. Leave." And she left, and I just yeah, So that was like a mind shift for me, as stupid as that was.
Yeah.
Well, and that goes to Dwayne. I was actually thinking while Ali was talking, there's also so many things that are in our minds that are put there by other people, and we don't even know it. I was reading a book called The Power of Consistency. I forget who the author was. It's an awesome book. And he's an ex-convict, and now he's I think he's worth like $50 to $100 million somewhere in there, coming out of prison and changing his life. But in the book, he talks about how when he was growing up, his father, basically, anytime someone had money, his father would always say something like, "Oh, they must be skimming some off the top, or they're dishonest." So he grew up that, well, if I want to make money, then I need to be dishonest. Then I need to, and that's what got him in prison, is that he was doing all these schemes and scams to quote unquote get rich. And that happens sometimes too. I mean, there's so many times where, like, Dwayne, that was a perfect example. The fact that you were around someone that was like, "Look, actually, I'm going to speak life about this guy. I know who this guy is, and I'm not going to sacrifice who this guy is to please someone else." And so often we put people around us that actually want to see us fail because it makes them feel better about themselves, or they don't understand. And I think that's something that sometimes hits this industry hard when there is a big school that has 400 students, and the immediate reaction is, "Oh, well, that's a McDojo. They're sacrificing the quality of their program. The integrity must be bad." Or that goes back to that narrative that we're putting in our own mind that we have no clue what's going on inside that building. But then what that does is it hurts us, because then it's like, well, I'll never want to get that big. I'm going to sabotage myself, because if I get that big, then I'm doing something wrong. I'm doing something bad. Even though, hey, that 400-person school, hey, they might be teaching amazing martial arts classes, and they have a great business sense, so they can reach more people.
Yeah. My favorite rebuttal to that, big school automatically makes you a McDojo, is that video of somewhere in China with this kung fu class that has like 3,000 students, and it's like the top school in the world, and they're all like doing these perfect forms. All 3,000 students across this huge, they're all doing this presentation, and the bottom just says, "Tell me more students makes you a McDojo." Prove me wrong, or something like that. Like, no way, man. They're giving a quality class. Yeah. But I think one of the things, Ali, while you were talking too, made me think of another book called Psycho Cybernetics don't let the name scare you. It's actually a really great book. It's by Maxwell Maltz. It's from it's written a long, long time ago, but it's all about self-image. And the name, which sounds like, something kind of like a horror movie or something, what it really is when he wrote the book, there was this new technology called cybernetics, which was what they were making, that technology they were using for like self-guided missiles, where it would learn from its mistakes and guide itself to its target. Cybernetic mechanisms is what he keeps referring to it as. And psycho, just meaning psychological, is how he put the names of the book together. But really what he talks about is the self-image is what guides you. And you can use your conscious mind to change your self-image if you're aware of it. But if not, your self-image is unbiased and works on its own no matter what. So if your image of yourself is, I'm a type of person that will never sacrifice my beliefs or my integrity to grow my school, and people who have big schools are McDojo owners, you'll never allow yourself to become a large school owner because your self-image is, I'll never do that. And the things that you think you have to do to get there will break who you are. And it's impossible for you to break out of that. Yeah. And so we actually do some exercises that we've drawn out of that book and some other trainings that we've done where before they ever even think about learning a process or running ads or anything like that, we run them through this process that is an exercise on who they are, who they want to be. And then we show them, this is what you want for yourself. And look at these activities you're doing or not doing. That's exactly attributing to the fact that you can never do this. And we show it, we draw those lines. And that's like such an epiphany moment for most people where they go, oh, well, I want these students, but I believe that a big number makes you automatically a McDojo, even though that's not true, even though it's not real. It's been part of my belief system. And when they're able to break that, that's when they can really make those breakthroughs and stop the self-sabotaging. So
John, if I put a note next to my wife Colleen's bedside that says, my husband is amazing and hasn't gained any weight, does that mean?
No.
Hey, but
that was going to be my best diet plan.
Yeah.
I can help you. I can help you.
Your own self-image.
Hey, check this out though. Years ago, I had this beautiful clock. I still have it, but it stopped working, and it was an affirmation clock. So I set it to wake up, and then I recorded a message on it. Right. And I forget what it was. I think it was something like, I want to be the best husband and father ever. I will go on to make a difference in people's lives, and blah, 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 blah. And that would wake me up slowly, quietly to a crescendo every morning. And I remember one time sitting at a dinner, and I said, I was explaining what I do for a living, and I hear my ex-wife at the time repeating word for word what my affirmation was on my clock. And he'll be the best father and husband ever. And, so those affirmations are so true, and what we tell ourselves is so important. Just for reason, this past weekend, I had a rather negative response from a parent who was going to renew their child who's been training me for 5 years. Young girl, started off so shy that she wouldn't even talk. She'd whisper and put her head down, and now she's on my demo team and so on. So the dad sends me his agreement back. He redlines like half of my contract. And he's like, it's a new era, it's a new time, and I don't agree to you being allowed to take pictures of my daughter during class, because in there it has a picture waiver. God forbid we ever take a photo for Facebook. We don't want to have to get permission from everybody. So, and little things like that. And I'm like, sorry, I can't help you. You either sign it the way it is or you can't train. He's like, that's the problem with your arrogance and negativity. And I'm like, this guy has always been in my head. Every time we did anything, he's always complained, and I've tolerated it. But the reason why I bring it up is because that's who he is. I'm never going to change him. Right. And sadly, the daughter's suffering because of it. And sometimes school owners are just never going to change. Like, I've had people that I've coached for years, and they're stuck in the same rut that they've always been because they don't want to make that paradigm shift. They actually don't want to be a success. They don't realize it, but they really don't want to be a success because they sabotage themselves every step of the way.
Well, Zig Ziglar talked about the fact that, a message can travel around the world in a matter of seconds, but sometimes it takes years before it penetrates the last 3/4 of an inch.
Yeah. And by the way, just for the listeners, you were pointing to your skull, right? So people know that it's that last 3/4 of an inch of your skull.
Yeah. And I was particularly talking about my skull, but yes. Yeah, agreed. So,
yeah.
Well, guys, let's dive in a little bit more with regards to, like, right now in the industry. What are you sharing, with your followers, what they need to do because I guess what I'm thinking is like, now's the time to advertise. I mean, I shouldn't say there isn't a better time, because actually in the middle of COVID was probably one of the best times. But now that we're here, what are you telling your people?
So not to be too lame or boring, but the rules really haven't changed that much. We've kind of run on the belief that if you've got your foundations right and you've got the stuff in place the right way, it's pretty evergreen. I know there's a lot of advertisers out there, and I've actually been guilty of this in the past, is you have to have 50 different ways to get into your funnel, or 50 different offers, or all sorts of different ways, or specials, or you've got to run a weekly special or a monthly special, or this is what we're doing for this season or that season. And the thing that we really figured out, which was a huge breakthrough for me, was we have one offer that we advertise year round. It's a free week of karate or whatever your art is. It's one offer. It works all the time, but it works great because there's a system behind it. So a lot of people have tried running a free week offer and never made any money on it, or never enrolled any students on it, because they don't have a system in place. So, the skeleton of the system is we advertise a free week year round because it works all the time. It always attracts people. It's simple. People understand it. You don't have to explain it. It doesn't have to sound, fancy. You don't have to put a Christmas spin on it or anything like that. It's a free week of lessons. And then when they come in for the first lesson, we give them an option to upgrade to a longer trial with a free uniform if they want to. And we don't do any sales tricks. We don't overcome any objections. We don't have any sales training, because the one thing I know about martial arts school owners is they hate doing sales, and they don't want to be a salesperson. They don't want to be sleazy, or they don't want to overcome. No one in the world, by the way, loves to overcome objections. I used to work in the timeshare industry. I was a timeshare salesperson, and then I was a sales manager, and then I owned my own timeshare resale company. And all we did all day long was overcome objections. I mean, I could teach you every possible tool that has ever been imagined by mankind, because I went through so much training for that. But no one likes doing it, even the best salespeople in the world. And what's the greatest thing about the way that our process is set up is you'll never have to do that, because it helps people make micro commitments, small little tiny decisions, and then they make it on their own. So it's not you overcoming an objection. It's exactly what every school owner wants. It's people who want to train, that want to come in, making the decision to do it. And so the process behind the scenes is free week of karate. Day one, we say, hey, I see you're here on the free week of karate. That's awesome. You could do that. Or you could do this paid trial, which is $67 for a whole month, and you get a free uniform. Which one do you want to do? And sometimes they'll stand there for 30 seconds to a minute, and then they'll go, yeah, I'll do the paid one. That's a better deal to me. And they make that decision, and instantly they become a member of your school in their minds. Even though they're still on a trial, the trial part makes it easy for them to say, oh, this is just a trial. I'm just still trying it. But they talk about it differently. So when mom's at her friend's house and she's talking about little Johnny, she doesn't say he's trying karate anymore. If it was if all she did was a free week, she'd say, oh, he's trying karate. And it'd be one lesson and he'd never go back, because the second lesson he'd be playing Fortnite, and mom would be like, come on, time for class. And he'd say, I don't want to go. And she'd say, all right, never mind. However, if Johnny joined karate, she's talking to her friends. She said, Johnny joined karate because she paid money. Now she talks about it like she's joined it. He's already a member, even though he's on a trial. When little Johnny's playing Fortnite and says, I don't want to go to class, she goes, oh, no, mister, put that uniform on, because we're going to class. I already paid for it. So it changes the mindset at home of mom, too. And then they get a couple of weeks to try it out. They get the most out of it. If you have good classes, they love the classes. And then at the second week, you go, hey, I know you're here on the month trial, but if you want to join right now, we'll apply that whole month to your first, or that whole trial amount to your first month. And that way you're only paying whatever the difference is. Do you want to just go ahead and join now? And about 50% of the people that did that trial will join in that second week. And now you've got people who want to join, who've paid for their seat. And the beauty is this flywheel effect happens where all that trial money that comes in pays for all of your ads. So you're basically getting free leads. You have an unlimited budget. You can bring in as many students as you want to, essentially without any money out of your pocket. And the only people you're talking to are the highest qualified, most interested leads that have already joined in their minds that are joining your school. So that's the same thing we've been doing forever. And it's the same thing that worked all through COVID. We just put a little virtual spin on it. Instead of doing, in-person classes, we taught everybody how to use Zoom, which is about a 30-minute lesson. Even for the worst technically challenged people can learn how to use Zoom pretty quick. And then we just started advertising a free virtual week. And that was, like you said, Dwayne, a glory day for sure for the ones that did it, because everybody wanted something to do.
Yes.
And the virtual classes, one of our clients actually came up with this idea. He recorded a couple of classes, put them in a Facebook group, labeled them day 1, day 2, day 3, or lesson 1, 2, 3. And when he was selling his paid trial over the phone, he said, I see you've signed up for the free trial. That's great. You can access that in our Facebook group. It's a bunch of pre-recorded videos. But if you want to take the paid trial, you get live classes for $67, and I'll send you a uniform, or you can come pick it up. And it was like no brainer. We were
almost 100%, right?
It was about 80% on the phone of people who signed up for a free week. Then he'd send them a message that says, hey, I see you signed up for the free week. I just have a couple questions. And he'd get on the phone. He'd go through our script that we actually had to hire a consultant to pay. We paid a consultant a good amount of money to come up with the script, because we just wanted to turn on a dime. We didn't want to try and error. And we just hired somebody, got the script. It worked great. And 80% of the people who he's talking, he still to this day is using that script for his in-person lessons because it saves him time. He just loves the process of getting him on the phone before they come into school. He's collecting a credit card over the phone, signing them up for the trial. That way, when they come in, they're already members.
Nice.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I love what you said too, that, you have to overcome that objection in the beginning, and not necessarily by selling, but by giving them an opportunity to have a different choice, right? And then once they're connected to the program, even if it's just for that $69 free month in uniform, they do believe that they're a part of the tribe or the family and the mentality, and it's less likely that they're going to want to stop anyway. So you know what I find interesting? I being that even when I coach people, and even some of our marketing guy does this, and he has struggles with school owners where they're always constantly judging the leads on quality versus judging their ability to connect with the student. So it's almost like if you had a mailing list of all successful people that make $100,000 plus a year that are willing to sign up immediately to your school, I'd buy that list any day. However, there's no such thing. So I'm happy. Like, I get people walking through the door of all income streams, people that are, hardworking landscapers, from to, white collar millionaires, and I find that I treat them all the same. I don't care what their income is. I don't care what they do for a living. I don't care what kind of car they drive. All I do is present my program and really work with their children or themselves to give them what we do. And then hopefully they fall in love with what we do and sign right up. So I think a lot of school owners they have a problem with that part, that connecting part. That's the only way you're going to get people to sign up. So like you said, if they buy that special, now all you care about is connecting with them. You have to communicate, develop a relationship. And then once you do, most likely they're going to sign up.
I like what you're doing too, is you're asking them out on a date. They show up for the date. And then, in this instance, you're saying, hey, we can do this date, but if you want to do a bigger date, you can just buy dinner right now. I mean, that's basically what you're doing.
Right.
And they're going, okay, I'll buy dinner right now. I mean, I know I'm being goofy.
Well,
with it.
Actually, you're kind of on point, because we don't do that. We don't offer that second thing until they finish the class. So they've actually been through the date. So it's almost like asking for the second date, but with a little more of a commitment, but a better incentive.
Right.
So it's kind of like, hey, I know I brought you to McDonald's today, but if you want to go out again, I always take my second date to the fancy steakhouse down the road.
Right.
Yeah, but you're buying.
Right.
But isn't it all about first impressions as well. I mean, I don't think school owners take enough time to, number one, develop their craft as far as speaking to people and developing relationships, or two, having something set up. Like we had Master Chung Park on last week. He says when people come in for their first class, he has a gift package that he gives them with a water bottle with his logo on it and a whole entire informational package, like a little gift waiting in a bag for them to pick up, you know.
And a stuffed toy, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I do a stuffed toy too. I don't know if he does as well, but like I have a little plush eagle. I have these guys they're on my shelf here that we've made out of a book I wrote, and this is for my little kids class. The adults don't really want these, but I have these two characters, right? And I give them to the kids. I have hundreds and hundreds of them. So as they come in, I'm like, here's a present for you guys. And just the other day, I had a parent come in. I have a book that was another one of our guests, Solomon Brenner, wrote, called Black Belt Parenting. So I bought like 70 books, and I give them out to all the parents as a gift. Even if they're coming back or not, I don't care. I'm like, this is just for you guys, just so you have it. So I'm constantly nurturing that relationship. And I think school owners fail at that constantly. It's almost like Dwayne said on dating. I visited Dwayne in his hometown, and I brought an ex-girlfriend, and when we were all done, when he had some private time with me, he's like, she's just not good for you. Like, I don't like her at all. Well, he was totally right. You know, I knew that she was a little nutty and crazy.
I'm just glad we have that relationship that I could actually tell you that.
Yeah, exactly. But I agreed with you, you know, like, but that first impression is everything. And school owners fail badly with that. Tremendous. And that's where it all starts. It's a big mistake.
Well, I think it goes back to what we said earlier, Ali, is this idea of if I do those things, it's going to water down the integrity of my program.
Yeah.
And the biggest hurdle I find in that is that, well, my curriculum is good, so people will come, which that's the most important thing. We're not telling anybody to have a watered down curriculum. But again, it just goes back to having that mindset that I need to meet people where they're at. And I need to understand that, like, for example, when I took my daughter to karate for the first time, first of all, her best friend in school was in it. So it was like, all right, she wanted to go.
Right.
It was an ATA school here in Atlanta, pretty big, you know, organization, Karate Atlanta. And me as a parent, honestly, I wanted good curriculum. Don't get me wrong. I don't want it to be a total waste of time, but that was not the number one thing on my priority list.
Exactly.
The number one thing was, is it a clean environment? Is it a friendly environment? Is it people that care about my daughter? Is she excited to be there?
Right.
And then the rest is, you know, is going to take care of itself. The curriculum is going to be icing on the cake as time goes on. And I think, again, to me, from what I hear is, and I get it, because the most important thing is a good curriculum. So I totally understand the fear of, well, if I do these things, I'll be sacrificing the integrity of my program. But you can have integrity in everything you do. And the more you do, the more it's going to, like, I could tell, Ali, when you showed those little stuffed animals that you're excited about. It's not some sales tactic you have. Right. You're excited about the joy that those kids are going to have.
Exactly.
But just as much as I'm going to be excited about that 8-year-old that passes their belt test, I'm going to be just as excited to give the 4-year-old a little stuffed animal, because it all comes together in the end.
Right. Yeah.
Sorry, Alec. I'm just going to add on to that. One thing I think that is a big eye opener for a lot of school owners is when they realize that they are not their ideal client. Like, you don't want a bunch of yous running around your school. Your ideal client, and most school owners know who they're trying to attract, whether they want kids classes or teen classes or adult classes, men's fitness, women's fitness, whatever they're after. They know who they're after, but then they advertise to them as if they're advertising to themselves. And what they don't realize is that, you know, that's usually a big, like, eye-popping moment when they go, oh, my ideal client doesn't think like I think.
Right. You know, it's interesting, though. I build websites for people, right? You know, and we have a website company, and I have to it's torture to get the owner of the school not to list every single accomplishment that they've ever made in their entire life, starting off with when they first potty trained, you know, like, it's like, dude, no one cares. Like, the only thing you could do, and I try, and I'm a good writer. I've written a bunch of books, so I'll try to craft their message in a way where it's storytelling and how all those accomplishments will benefit the student, because we all know that if it doesn't benefit the client or the parent and their child, then there's no sense in having, you know, even having them in your school, because, you know, so that's a big problem. So it's about that message, you know, understanding that, no, you're not you're not the ideal client. It doesn't matter. You're not going to take that 4-year-old and turn him into a pit fighter or have Muay Thai champion right now, maybe later on, but that you got to appeal to the desires of the actual student.
Well, that's the whole thing about having black belt eyes, and sometimes we look at our marketing and our communication as if we're talking to black belts, and we can't use that same language. We count with Korean in our studio, and if I were to talk Korean to a parent that's coming in, they wouldn't understand what I'm talking about unless they actually were Korean, obviously, right? So, or that they've studied Korean. So we've got to be very careful that and Travis, I think you brought this up, that we've got to meet them where they're at. And so we have to be able to speak their language of where they're at and make that communication so good that they go, yeah, wow, this guy or this gal, they get me. They understand what I'm looking for. And, that's like one of the things that we do is we have what we call a discovery session. And it's just a survey that they fill out, after their second class. And basically it's for us, we want to discover, what it is that you're looking for out of a martial arts program for yourself or Johnny, whichever, little Johnny, whatever. And the video that goes along with it, I just tell them that I want to make sure that, one, that I know what you're looking for, but two, that we can actually deliver on what you're looking for. Because if we can't, I want to let you know that, this is unrealistic for us. We're not equipped to be able to do this. And there are some circumstances and situations that we're not equipped for. And I'll be real and honest with you if we're not.
Right. That reminds me of when I first started teaching at a college. I was a history major. And so you have to do student teaching. You go in and you spend a semester as a college student teaching classes. And the first class I taught was 10th grade world history. I still really remember. I remember because I'm coming from a college level education where we're going super in depth into historical content. So my first lesson was really, really like way too high level.
Advanced, yeah.
And I remember like leaving just like distraught because this is like the career I've chose. I'm sitting there crying in the car. I'm calling my brother-in-law who's a teacher. I'm like, this is a total disaster. Praise God that these kids were just like the sweetest kids, and they just sat there and took this hour-long like terrible presentation.
The professor teaching college.
Exactly. So like 14-year-olds, right? Who don't care. They're only there because they have to be mandated by the state of Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And, but it was a really big eye opener that, hey, he told me the best advice I got from him is, and it's going to sound terrible, but the root of it is good. He's like, you need to remind yourself that every kid in that room is just stupid.
Yeah.
And he didn't mean like they don't have the ability. It's just that like, you got to just pretend that they know absolutely nothing about anything.
Yeah, they're ignorant.
Go from there.
Yeah. The word I use all the time is ignorant, but people take offense to that. And technically the definition is just you don't know.
It's lack of knowledge. That's what ignorance is.
Yeah, exactly. And what's interesting, Dwayne, what you said too about Korean, and I know we're almost out of time, is that, it's not even the terminology or the language. It's just about the martial arts in general. A parent walks in, they heard karate is good. They don't have any idea how and why. So we have to understand from our past experiences what benefits. Like you see a 3-year-old little girl and you go, okay, great. This is what we do for them. And this, I'm a dad and I could do this and that. And people need to find that happy way of pointing that out to the parents, right? And it's important, or to the student or the prospect and so on.
Right.
So, yeah, very
well,
cool.
And, the other thing along with that is if we know that we have that opportunity, then we actually have the opportunity to craft the story that will, that they can believe in. And I don't mean it in a bait and switch type of way, but craft that story that they go, wow, I didn't realize that you can get this much out of martial arts. Whether it's you, what you say and how you say it, whether it's, what your program director says and how they say it, the testimonials that they're listening to or getting access to, all of those help to craft that story. So if we as martial artists can go, wow, we really have an opportunity to, we're going to use your paradigm, right? To change the paradigm of the parent, because when they come in, they're thinking in most cases, they're just thinking, very one way. And, I want my kid to have self-discipline or respect or, whatever the 3 things are. And that's it. But when they're able to see, oh, this connects to this connects to that, this connects to this. Oh, wow, I didn't realize that, within 4 years, my kid could be, a black belt and then teaching and leading others to do that, and the leadership qualities that they're going to gain. I mean, just all of those things need to be in the story, I think.
Absolutely, without a doubt.
Yeah.
So I know we're running close on time, and you have to be done immediately at the top of the hour. So I don't know if we want to talk about, we're going to be doing a really amazing event coming up.
Yeah. So we've got a webinar that we're going to host, and obviously, John, we asked you as our expert to really kind of wow us with this webinar. So John, do me a favor if you would, and just tell the listeners, one, what we're going to do on this webinar, and then two, how they can get access to it. And I know that we're going to put the link underneath this video too. And then, by the way, those of you that are listening via podcast, you can go to schoolownertalk.com / what is it? Let me look it up here. 276. So / 276. Schoolownertalk.com / 276 will get you to the link as well. But John, what are we going to go over? Explain it to everybody.
Yeah. So it's pretty simple. We're going to do a webinar on how to enroll more paying students. It's something that you can use this month.
John, is this webinar free?
This is a free webinar. Yes.
Okay. I know it is, but I just want to make sure everybody understands that.
Yes. Free masterclass, how to enroll paying students. And it's not going to require you to hire an ad agency or pay thousands of dollars to some agency every month. It's going to show you how to do it without using any complicated technology. Really simple, basic stuff that you can implement right away. We're going to show you some of the things that all the most successful school owners that we know are doing right now, and exactly what you can do to start enrolling those students. We're going to show you the strategies that we've been using to add these students, even during some of the worst lockdowns in 2020. We're going to show you why this really is the time to market your school. And we're going to go really kind of more in depth into our two-step value ladder system. We touched a little bit on that here, but we'll do a much deeper dive into that and basically show you how you can start running ads without actually paying money out of your pocket to do that. So we're going to give you that whole breakdown in that process. It's a 100% free masterclass. It's going to be really, really awesome. The link, I believe, you guys have that, but is it join?
Yes, join.training / school owner talk. So awesome. Join.training / school owner talk. And then also you can go to schoolownertalk.com / like I said, 276 and get the link there as well. Either one. And then day and time. We're doing this next week, right?
Yeah, next Tuesday. That's April 27th at noon Eastern time. So that's next Tuesday, April 27th, noon Eastern.
And then is that Central or Eastern, you said?
Eastern time. Yep.
Eastern, okay.
Noon Eastern. And we're going to also do, by the end of it, we'll do a full training on there, and then we'll also do a live Q&A. So if you don't get your questions answered as we're going through the training, you can chat in with us live, and we'll be there to answer those chats. Travis will be monitoring the chat. I know you guys will probably be there monitoring the chat as well. And I'll be doing a lot of talking. Yeah. You guys will be monitoring the chat. So we'll have all those questions answered. Usually at the end of the Q&A time, we've got a bunch of questions already submitted. Travis will read those to me. I'll start answering them live on the call. And then it's going to be a super value-packed, awesome thing. We're not holding anything back on that webinar.
I think we're also giving some cool things away for free at the end as well, right? We have some gifts and stuff like that.
Perhaps. We'll just have to see about that. I guess you'll just have to attend live to find out.
Exactly.
So here's the link again. It's join.training / schoolownertalk.com. It's join.training / schoolownertalk.com. It is next Tuesday on the 27th Eastern time. You said at noon, right? Eastern time?
Yep. Yeah. Noon Eastern.
All right. I have it in my calendar. I just don't have it up in my head. So
it's that 3/4 of an inch.
In my calendar. I don't have to remember it. Travis, you were saying?
I was saying it's that 3/4 of an inch. It's going to take some time to get up there.
It's my fault. Yes, is what you're saying. I got you. So, well, gentlemen, we really appreciate you being a part of the podcast today. Thank you very much. Any final thoughts before we go?
It's always a pleasure being out with you guys. Really enjoy it.
Thank you, guys.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot. We'll see you guys on the
Take care.
See you next
See
week.
you then.
All righty.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Martial Arts School Owner Talk Podcast. This would not be possible if it weren't for the support of our amazing sponsors. Please check out EliteInsights.com for all your website needs. LeadHunterMedia.com, your online digital marketer and content provider. Academy Kings BJJ Growth Consulting and Management at GrowMyAcademy.com. SparkMembership.com, the best darn software for school owner manager on the planet. GetKarateStudents.com, a martial arts growth consulting company for all your school systems. We will see you next time.